Good evening, I'm Andrew Chang. Adrian is away. Tonight, BC's brutal heat shifts east, but leaves behind grief and another threat.
This emergency went beyond anything we've experienced before. It has been an ocean of intense heat.
The stunning death toll and growing danger from wildfires. An Indigenous group makes another painful discovery of unmarked graves near a residential school in BC.
It's just, it's devastating.
While two more churches have been set ablaze.
These acts of violence and intimidation is not reconciliation.
Bill Cosby is released from prison, why his conviction was overturned, and what happens now. Plus, Ontario takes another cautious step towards reopening and some long-awaited reunions.
People generally rush to restaurants to go eat. I think my grandma has the best cooking, so I'm gonna come here first regardless.
This is The National. Well, as the unrelenting, record-breaking heat dome that's been baking Western Canada settles over Alberta and Saskatchewan, we are getting a much clearer picture tonight of just how dangerous and deadly it is. This afternoon, the BC Coroner Service announced a surge in sudden deaths over the last 5 days, at least 486 since the heat wave began on Friday. Take a moment to process that number, because as Katie Nicholson explains, that is a far bigger number than usual, and it comes as another threat takes hold.
Safe in the shade with a friend, Ken Langner worries how other seniors have weathered the past week without air conditioning.
Just wondering what the devil are they doing, because there's no way you can, in that type of apartment, there's no way you can get a draft through or anything. You just sit there and roast, and it's sad.
The BC Coroner Service says between Friday and this afternoon, at least 486 sudden deaths have been reported. That's 300 more deaths than they would normally see in the same period.
Certainly, we've seen a significant increase compared to previous years, the same time frame, and we suspect that many of the deaths are attributable to the heat.
Many of those who died this past week are believed to be seniors who lived alone.
Heat is a killer.
Anthony Kupferschmidt runs a seniors network in Vancouver's West End. He says people need to fill the gaps services can't.
I think it's really important for older adults to connect with their neighbors to ensure that they have those relationships.
All levels of government were caught off guard by the record-shattering heat wave.
This emergency went beyond anything we've experienced before. It has been an ocean of intense heat.
Today, tacit admissions from leaders, big changes are needed.
So we have to be ready, because we can't ignore the possibility of a next time.
As the heat dome shifts east, a new threat emerges.
This is us. We're on our way out. That's where our home is.
This wall of flames sparked up near Kamloops, prompting evacuations as it rapidly spread over 4,000 hectares.
It's really hard to control the edge and to do anything with people. Really, the big thing we can do is structure protection, and just throwing up sprinklers around houses and ensuring that people get out safely, that they get their cattle.
And Katie, just on that last point, we should mention that we're not just talking about one or two fires here, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's at least 41 wildfires right now burning within the province. 26 of those just started in the last 2 days. There is a campfire ban came into place today. That works for humans, doesn't work for lightning. That is the fear, of course, something could spark up, and with the wind, we could have a devastating fire here. The other thing, though, is that there's a lot of runoff. So the province right now is a patchwork of flood warnings and watches because, there's been so much alpine runoff because temperatures have been 32 degrees as high up as 2,000 meters, and that's really bloated rivers made for dangerous conditions. So it's not just fire, it's flooding, and that is the mark left behind by this heat dome, Andrew.
All right, Katie, thanks very much. Now in Alberta, people are scrambling to find ways to keep cool and safe as those temperatures rise. Carolyn Dunn with what doctors there are now seeing.
Tana Horsfall was thrilled to find a place to fill her water bottle on a Calgary city street. She's experiencing homelessness and says places like corner stores are simply not an option for her.
Then they're like, do you have money? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And like sometimes I have to steal the water, and I don't want to do that.
Volunteers are trying to go where the most vulnerable people are.
There's going to be a lot of people and going to be ending up in the hospital and being really, really sick from this because some of them don't know how to look after themselves.
In the last 24 hours, dozens of ambulances were dispatched to deal with patients suffering from the heat, and Alberta hospitals had more than 60 heat-related visits.
We're seeing all sorts of things. We're seeing bad sunburns, but we're also seeing a little uptick in kidney stones and gout attacks as people get dehydrated. And of course, we are starting to see some heat exhaustion.
Hotels around the province are doing brisk business with people who can afford to pay for a reprieve from the sustained heat. And every guest calling in for a reservation asks the same thing.
The first question is, do you have air conditioning? And the second question is almost immediately, does it work?
But AC is a luxury many people cannot afford. So as a growing number of Alberta communities break historic records for all-time highs, people are coping however they can. Sydney Gray can't even find a fan to purchase, so she's been resorting to cold towels to keep her son Carson comfortable.
There's only so much I can do to try and keep him cool because we don't have central air, we don't have AC, and we currently don't have any fans.
And at least another day of stifling and potentially dangerous temperatures in the forecast. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, Calgary.
So after all this, it's worth asking, what exactly is a heat dome and what is so exceptional about this particular one? Our meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff will be here with the answers, including why these events could become more frequent in the future. That's a little later in the program. Well, in the days and weeks since the discovery of unmarked graves at former residential schools across Canada, a number of Catholic churches have been burned, with no one claiming responsibility. Last night, another church went up in flames, this time one not on Indigenous land.
Oh, it's going to crash. Oh, it is crashing.
Emergency crews were called to St. Jean-Baptiste Parish at about 3 in the morning in the small town of Morinville, just north of Edmonton. But with flames already raging, there was little they could do but contain the scene. Speaking earlier today, Morinville's mayor was clearly shaken.
We need to deal with the shock and have an opportunity to grieve the loss to our community.
Visiting those charred ruins this afternoon, Alberta Premier Jason Kenney took a sharper line.
We all know that Canada has to redouble its efforts at reconciliation, but these acts of violence and intimidation is not reconciliation. It's not the way forward.
Police have not announced an official cause, but are investigating the possibility of arson. And St. Jean-Baptiste Parish was not the only Canadian Catholic church to burn overnight. Nova Scotia RCMP are looking into a suspicious fire that damaged a Catholic church on Sebeganagate First Nation. That would make 6 Catholic churches that have burned in recent days. Meanwhile, yet another First Nation has announced the discovery of unmarked graves near a former residential school, again using ground-penetrating radar, this time near Cranbrook, BC. Here's Olivia Stefanovic on what we know and how it may affect the push for an apology from the Pope himself.
Childhood items line the entrance of the former St. Eugene Mission residential school, honoring the nearby discovery of 182 unmarked shallow graves.
It's just, it's devastating.
It's unclear exactly who was buried here, children or adults, or how or when they died. But what is clear, the revelation is igniting further anger and calls for action.
There are living priests, nuns, and staff that had a hand in this, then find them.
The Prime Minister says there needs to be accountability.
Governments have their role to play, and the Justice Department no doubt will have its role to play as well.
But Justin Trudeau also says the Roman Catholic Church, which ran St. Eugene's, needs to take responsibility.
That's what people are expecting. I think it is a good piece of news that there are going to be meetings with Indigenous leaders with His Holiness.
A delegation of Indigenous people will travel to the Vatican in December, seeking an official papal apology in Canada for the Church's role in running residential schools.
The Anglican Church has apologized. The Presbyterian Church has apologized. United Church has apologized. And this is really part of truth and be part of the healing and reconciliation process.
Catholic entities in Canada have apologized, but the Vatican remains the only holdout.
The current climate in Canada relative to the uncovering of grave sites and whatnot has heightened interest all the way around.
A national outpouring of grief continues at memorials like this one. The president of the Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops says Pope Francis is open to delivering an apology in Canada at an opportune time. When that moment will be, he wouldn't say. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
Bill Cosby is no longer behind bars tonight. His conviction for sexual assault overturned by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Jacqueline Hansen has the details of the stunning reversal and the response from Cosby's most prominent accuser.
This was more than 2 years ago. Bill Cosby cuffed and sent to prison. His fall from grace as America's TV dad broadcast across the world. Now he's free.
He just said his heart was racing. He couldn't believe it.
Cosby was convicted of drugging and sexually assaulting Canadian Andrea Constant. She initially reported the assault in 2005, a year after it happened. That delay is part of why a U.S. district attorney released a public statement saying he wouldn't charge Cosby criminally. So Constant pursued a civil case in which Cosby had to testify.
He basically gave up his right to remain silent and not implicate himself based on the promise that it wouldn't be used against him in criminal court.
In his deposition, Cosby said he had offered drugs to women he wanted to have sex with. When those comments were made public, a new district attorney decided to charge him. Judges on Pennsylvania's Supreme Court now say that was unfair.
The success of this appeal does not challenge Ms. Constant's story. It does not exonerate Mr. Cosby's behavior. All it says is this case was legally flawed.
Is this a blow to the Me Too movement? It's not a win.
In a statement, Constant called the decision disappointing and said she's concerned this could discourage other women from seeking justice.
I would urge people to look at this decision from a constitutional lens and not from a lens of sexual assault.
This lawyer says culturally a lot has changed since the DA questioned Constant's delay.
Now a district attorney might look at those circumstances and say, this is how victims respond in this type of situation. It's not atypical and it's not a mark against our victims' credibility.
Today's decision also means Cosby can't be tried for this particular case again. But there are dozens of other women who claim he's guilty of more. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, a difficult day at the site of that collapsed condo building near Miami. 6 more bodies have been pulled from the debris, including those of 2 young children. A total of 18 people now confirmed dead, with more than 130 still unaccounted for, and that includes 4 Canadians. Bad weather also continues to be an issue, slowing down an already difficult search. President Joe Biden plans to visit the site tomorrow. Well, turning to the pandemic now, and a story of growing optimism in this country, with restrictions lifting in many provinces and Canadians slowly getting a taste of normal life again. The numbers tell the story about where we are right now. New daily cases continuing to fall, just 539 reported today. And to put that in perspective, look how far we've come. At the peak of the 3rd wave, back on April 15th, this country saw more than 9,000 new cases. Well, Ontario saw some of the worst of that 3rd wave, but today it took another big step towards normal, moving to stage 2 of its reopening plan. And as Deanna Sumanak-Johnson shows us, along with the excitement came warnings not to let one's guard down just yet.
With many safety measures and the number of customers snipped by 75%, this beauty salon is, for the first time in 7 months, open for business.
It made us feel valued, the fact that people were so happy to see us, but I think the best part also was just the team being able to work together again, because we haven't seen each other for so long, too.
Ontario's phase 2 of reopening will also allow for some live arts and entertainment, for now only outdoors. This acrobatic and aerial show will use separated platforms for small groups to keep everyone safe.
To see the reaction of the audience, that was missed the most actually. To see the applause to this is what we're here, this is what we do.
But for some, it's the small, private joys of reunions that count the most. Today's new rules allow for small indoor gatherings.
I would say people generally rush to restaurants to go eat. I think my grandma is the best cooking, so I'm gonna come here first regardless. Yeah, at the end of the day, big family. We've always been around each other, so family comes first.
But the excitement in the province is tempered. Waterloo, experiencing a surge in cases of the highly contagious Delta variant, will have to wait. And in other areas with high levels of the variant, calls for caution.
I want to continue to urge our residents to gradually expand your contacts, avoid large gatherings, and continue to favor the outdoors.
Ontario's new Chief Medical Officer of Health said that for now, he doesn't recommend that the province move to phase 3 of reopening earlier than planned. So for now, indoor dining, gyms, and larger gatherings are still at least 3 weeks away, as the province hopes its ongoing vaccination campaign can keep these new freedoms intact. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, it bears mentioning, while parts of Canada are reopening, there is a stark reminder that the pandemic writ large is far from over. The Delta variant is forcing lockdowns in several countries that so far had managed to avoid the worst of it. Christine Burak shows us the consequences.
Countries across the southern hemisphere are locking down, trying to slow the spread of the more infectious Delta variant. In Bangladesh, thousands are leaving the nation's capital, Dhaka, ahead of a strict lockdown, while major Australian cities are now empty.
This full lockdown is designed to act as a circuit breaker, to buy our contact tracers and testing systems time to gain a truer picture of how far this outbreak has spread.
Currently, around 5% of Australia's population is fully vaccinated. Many blame vaccine supply shortages and concerns around AstraZeneca for the slow vaccine rollout.
And that's why we have a sense of urgency. Until at least 80% of our adult population is vaccinated, we can't have a conversation about what COVID normal looks like.
In Malaysia, about 7% of people have had 2 doses. A nationwide stay-at-home order has just been extended because daily infection rates just aren't dropping far enough. And Hong Kong has banned all incoming flights from the UK, where cases of the Delta variant are also rising fast. But COVID deaths in the UK remain low due to high vaccination rates.
The reasons we're concerned about variants is that eventually one of those variants might actually escape the vaccine.
Studies have shown COVID-19 vaccines are effective against current variants of concern, but the longer this virus circulates, the more it's likely to mutate.
If we don't take where variants are being produced seriously, one of them is going to come back and bite us very hard. It's just a matter of time.
He adds, the variant first identified in Brazil also remains a serious threat. Some experts say while countries like Canada are now vaccinating low-risk groups like children, they should also be pushing to vaccinate high-risk adults in other parts of the world as quickly as possible. Christine Burak, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, fans are cheering on the Habs as they hope to even the series tonight in their bid for the Stanley Cup, and famed cartoonist Aislinn is one of them. Coming up, he speaks to us about 50 years of drawing his favorite team and how they've continued to inspire him all this time. But first.
They accused me of counseling murders for the benefit of a terrorist organization.
A man acquitted of terrorism charges faced deportation and ongoing surveillance. Now he's speaking out. His story coming up. Welcome back. There has been another move to oust Green Party leader Annamie Paul. With a possible election on the horizon, she will face a non-confidence vote next month. Travis Danrash with the reasons and her response.
Sometimes the most negative voices in the room are the loudest.
Green Party leader Annamie Paul remains confident despite a renewed effort to push her out, a non-confidence vote planned in 3 weeks. This letter from the interim party president alleges Paul has failed to meet her obligations as leader. We do not take this matter or the decision to hold this vote lightly. The Green Party deserves strong, thoughtful, and action-oriented leadership. The letter, read at a party town hall, alleges Paul is the reason for the party's reputation being damaged and the defection of an MP. CBC News has learned over a dozen party staff are being laid off.
It's disastrous for them. I mean, it basically tells the voting public they're not ready for prime time, which is a huge issue. They elected the first female Black Jewish leader of their party. It got international news. It was incredibly momentum building for them. And then I think we've seen infighting after infighting, and right months, if not weeks, ahead of a federal election.
The letter also rebukes Paul's claims of racism and sexism from within. The leader of the Quebec Greens says Paul needs to step aside now, adding the federal turmoil is hurting provincial parties.
I think that the responsibility for that rests solely on the shoulders of Annamie Paul.
Paul initially came under fire for refusing to condemn the words of a former advisor. Noah Zatzman had called out Green Party MPs who were critical of Paul's support of Israel.
I'm quite confident that our members support my leadership, and I'm here at the pleasure of our members.
The vote is set to take place on July 20th and requires 75% approval from party councillors in order to pass. But Paul could still survive. The vote then goes to all party members, who will ultimately decide her fate as leader. Travis Danrash, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, former U.S. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld has died at the age of 88. Donald Rumsfeld served 4 U.S. presidents, working as Secretary of Defense for 2 of them, Gerald Ford and George W. Bush. When the Pentagon was attacked on 9/11, Rumsfeld was there in his office. That moment and the wars that followed defined his career. Rumsfeld oversaw the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, then of Iraq, there warning of weapons of mass destruction that were never found. Questioned about the lack of evidence, he gave this now famous response.
There are things that we now know we don't know, but there are also unknown unknowns. There are things we do not know we don't know.
Today, former President George W. Bush remembered him as a man of intelligence, integrity, and almost inexhaustible energy, who never paled before tough decisions and never flinched from responsibility. Well, breaking news tonight, in an ongoing tax investigation into the Trump Organization, with a high-ranking member of the company about to surrender to authorities. CNN reports that Chief Financial Officer Alan Weisselberg will turn himself in tomorrow. The Associated Press also reporting that tax-related charges would be laid against Weisselberg and the organization. Trump himself not expected to be charged. Well, two of Canada's athletes will compete in the Tokyo Olympics after all. Both of them mothers of young children, both of them forced to fight rulings that they say pit women's rights against representing their country. Kayla Hounsell explains how they won and what it means for other women in sport.
With 2 Pan American and 11 national championships, Mandy Bugeaud is considered one of Canada's most successful flyweight boxers.
Out of all the battles I've prepared for in my career as a boxer, I'd never thought in a million years that a battle for gender equity would be the most difficult.
When the pandemic wiped out the 2020 qualifying events, the International Olympic Committee came up with a new way to qualify boxers. It decided to look retroactively at points earned during an 11-month period in 2018 and 19. But during that time, Bugeaud was pregnant and couldn't earn any points. Today, she says the Court of Arbitration for Sport ruled accommodations must be made.
This is a decision that has the potential to change the sporting world for all women who decide to be a mom and an Olympian.
She does! Bugeaud wasn't the only athlete with a victory for women's rights today. Basketball player Kim Gaucher took her battle to social media, fighting for an exemption from COVID travel restrictions that bar athletes from bringing families.
Right now, I'm being forced to decide between being a breastfeeding mom or an Olympic athlete. I can't have them both.
But today, Tokyo organizers ruled she can.
Obviously really happy, a little bit overwhelmed.
A spokesperson said the IOC is pleased organizers found a special solution for breastfeeding mothers.
I'm just really happy that the right decisions have been made. I mean, being a mom is really hard, but it's also one of the best jobs that I could have.
And put the gloves back on?
It's not clear exactly how Bugeaud will qualify, but her lawyer says the deadline for the Canadian Olympic Committee to register its athletes is Monday, and Bugeaud will be on the list.
Women should not be punished for being women.
Both athletes say today is a good day for mothers in sport. Despite winning battles, they should never have had to fight. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final got underway tonight in Tampa.
Is the lineup that Luke Richardson has up front to start.
Montreal Canadiens are a game down in their series against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and in Montreal, Habs fans went to the Bell Centre to cheer on their team. Health officials have limited capacity there to 3,500 people, but hopes that 10,000 would be allowed into Friday's Game 3 were dashed tonight. Now, famed cartoonist Aislinn is a big Habs fan. Coming up, a half-century of cartoons depicting the Habs, and what a roller coaster ride lately. You can hear Aislinn's thoughts on what the team means to people like him in just a moment. Welcome back. A man once charged with terrorism offenses here in Canada says he is struggling to move on with his life after his acquittal. He says some people, including the government, believe he remains a threat. In his first television interview, he told Adrian that he hopes speaking publicly will make a difference, and not just for him.
This is every day.
Every single day for Adam Hamden recently has started with a phone call.
I am phoning immigration to report.
This is life now. Dozens of conditions imposed on a man who is far from free.
It's ridiculous. Why would an innocent man that's been deemed innocent after being judged too have to do this.
Moving to the U.S., then Canada, from the UAE years ago was supposed to be for a safer, better life. But over time, it got hard for the politically minded, outspoken, and sometimes angry Hamden to stay silent about the world and its violent spasms. His big trauma began when one of Canada's did. In the wrenching wake of the Parliament Hill shooting in 2014, Canada's police and security services went looking to see what they were missing on their radar of extremism. The RCMP started screenshotting parts of Facebook posts from several accounts run by Hamden. Of the thousands of posts, over 80 worried police. Some seemed to celebrate ISIS and lone wolves. Others identified places in Canada with weak security. The RCMP came knocking on his door in 2014 to talk about those posts.
Did they say to you, stop this?
No.
What was that conversation like?
That conversation was, hey Hamden, the topic that you're talking about is very sensitive. Some people might be offended by what you're saying. You might want to watch what you're saying.
He heard them but did not stop. In July of 2015, another visit from the RCMP, this time to arrest him and charge him with 4 terrorism offenses, which are relatively rare in Canada.
They accused me of counseling murders for the benefit of a terrorist organization. Counseling murder, assault, and mischief, and some other charge that I generally incited terrorism.
Denied bail, he was held in jail for 2 full years before his trial.
To be very clear, you are not and were not a member of ISIS.
Never was, never will be.
Was there not a suggestion at some point that you had an ISIS flag in your cell?
There was a suggestion that I had drawn an ISIS flag, a graffiti on one of the court cells. And all I did is I wrote Islamic insignia. I mean, 6 years of government-funded propaganda is a very difficult message to counter.
When the BC Supreme Court finally heard the evidence, the judge found some of the content of Hamden's posts and reposts of what others had written repugnant, offensive, and troubling.
At first, I was very perplexed.
An expert witness for the defense, Navaid Aziz of Calgary, who studies religious extremism and de-radicalization, looked at those posts too. He found them deeply uncomfortable.
I was like, oh, how could someone post some of this stuff? Like, even if you believe this stuff, is this stuff that you really want to be posting online? So I found it to be someone that hadn't thought through what they were trying to achieve.
Ultimately, he concluded Hamden was not a religious extremist.
He ended up finding purpose in his activism online, and had he channeled it properly and perhaps being more cautious in terms of what he was posting, his situation might be different.
The judge concluded Hamden didn't have the intent to commit a crime, and the posts and reposts did not cross a criminal line. By the end of the trial in 2017, the verdict, not guilty on any of the terrorism charges. That should have been the end of it.
It seems to me that...
But something happened next that both puzzles and angers law professor Kent Roach in Toronto, who studied and wrote about the case.
Someone who had been denied bail and detained for over 2 years was acquitted. You would expect that that person would walk free.
But he didn't. He was never released. Instead, after the trial, Hamden was sent immediately to immigration detention and held there for another 2 years, sometimes in solitary confinement. The court had called him not guilty, but the Immigration Division determined he was still a threat to Canada. His refugee status was revoked. The plan was to deport him.
A miscarriage of justice.
To Roach, it looks like when police didn't get the conviction they wanted, they just tried a different route to get to Hamden.
The immigration law has a lower standard, a much lower standard of proof. And so it seems to me that in the best of all worlds, the government would choose one of those instruments and not line them up sequentially. So if they lose a criminal case, they can come back with immigration detention. You know, it's kind of a heads I win, tails you lose.
By 2019, after 4 years of custody, he was finally released.
Everything there is about my case, allegedly.
But with a raft of conditions while his lawyers fought his deportation order.
And this was filed to still say CBSA considers me a national security threat.
A few months ago, that deportation order was officially put on hold. It seems the nature of those posts and the terrorism charges, regardless of the verdict, could put him in danger in Jordan, sending him back deemed too much of a risk. But he's also still considered a risk in Canada. The RCMP, CBSA, and Public Safety denied a request for interviews or even clarification on why Hamdan continues to be perceived as a threat.
What is his status in this country?
Well, you know, it's the same status as the men that were detained under security certificates. It's the status of being under a cloud. For people like Mr. Hamdan, I think it's going to be a constant struggle.
It's more than a struggle. He now lives in a world where some people make it clear he's not wanted. After our first interview, word got out. People from Christina Lake started reaching out, saying they're afraid of Hamdan, but don't want to say that on camera. We arranged for another interview in another town.
I started to get emails and phone calls from people in the community who were angry. And again, I kept hearing from them, how could he post these things and not say he's sorry?
There's nothing to apologize about. Like, what have I done that requires remorse? That I talked about the conflict in the Middle East freely and expressed that all sides commit crimes, including ISIS, including Al-Qaeda, including the Canadian government. And I'm trying to go forward. I'm trying to be the model citizen, yet still the Canadian government has the audacity to say I'm dangerous.
And here's the persistent dilemma. In the eyes of the criminal court, Hamdan isn't guilty. But in the eyes of the RCMP and the immigration officials who now determine his fate, he remains a threat and has to go. So now what? He fights back legally, has now been granted a work permit and limited access to the internet.
Legal fights over freedom of expression and censorship. This is for every individual. This is human rights.
Adam Hamdan is in Canada but not Canadian, out of jail but not free, not guilty, but for too many, not innocent either.
And a footnote here, Hamdan has 2 civil cases filed over what has happened, including for malicious prosecution and for his time in solitary confinement. Well, next on The National, as more restrictions loosen across the country, most of us are eager to return to normal. But what about those of us who aren't exactly ready to rush back in? A psychiatrist and a neuroscientist will break down any anxiety we may be feeling and what's happening in our brains and how to change it next time. Welcome back. So how do you feel about your city opening back up? Maybe you've been waiting for this moment for ages, or maybe you've gotten used to the isolation, and maybe you're even feeling a little bit anxious about getting back together with people. So let's talk about that with psychiatrist Dr. Stephen Taylor and Danilo Stock, a professor who also works at the Montreal Neurological Institute and a neuroscientist by training. Professor, maybe we'll start with you. I guess it is fascinating to think that our brains may well have changed, right? Because of all of the isolation we've been experiencing.
Yeah, it's interesting to consider that complex social interaction is really a defining characteristic of the human species, and it may also be part of the reason why we have developed these powerful brains in the first place. So this is why, in the absence of regular social interaction, we may actually see changes in these very evolved parts of the brain.
Dr. Taylor, how does that manifest? I mean, when you see patients, what have you noticed in people who are feeling genuine anxiety about the idea of reconnecting with others?
Well, there's a range of different reactions. Most people can't wait to resume their normal social lives, but there is a significant minority of people who are anxious and varying degrees of anxiety. For some of those people, it will just take a little bit of time for them to warm up to returning to life as they knew it. For other people with more severe anxiety, they might benefit from seeing a mental health practitioner, such as a psychologist or psychiatrist.
Because what is the point at which you start getting concerned? Because I wonder, is preferring the isolation of a pandemic okay? I mean, I know a lot of people who, you know, from a social and loneliness standpoint, have been doing pretty well.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with preferring to be by yourself. And I would say that the anxiety would be a problem if it's starting to interfere with your life. Like you can't sleep at night, you're irritable all the time because you're anxious, you can't do your job, you can't fulfill your roles as a parent or caregiver. At that point, I would say your anxiety is creating a problem and maybe you need to address it.
So, Professor Stock, how much elasticity do we have upstairs? You know, to get our brains maybe back to the way it was pre-pandemic?
A very important question. I think there's reason to be optimistic. Research in animals and humans has shown that there's a certain elasticity to the social brain. So in monkeys, if you increase the number of companions in the cage in a matter of weeks, you can measure changes in brain structure in the social brain regions. And in humans, there are some rare experiments that also show in a matter of weeks, regular training in social capacities does lead to changes and adaptations in social brain regions.
So it's funny to think of the brain almost like a muscle. I mean, when you talk about training, right, that you just need practice, you need to work at it. So Dr. Taylor, how to move forward? I mean, you know, besides just diving into the deep end and calling up all your friends and making plans to force yourself into those situations, what are some strategies to feel less anxious about entering this post-pandemic world?
Well, one strategy is to give yourself a break, to acknowledge that it's okay and expected to feel anxious, particularly at this stage, and that you can expect that your anxiety will gradually abate the more and more you give yourself a little nudge to go out and resume those things. But again, it's up to you. But if you're finding that that's not enough, then again, I suggest seeking out a mental health practitioner, such as a psychologist or psychiatrist.
And do either of you have a take on the role of social media here? Because I don't know about you guys, but I've been reading and scrolling through a lot more than I would normally, I think, in a pandemic, and I'm seeing, you know, all of my friends enjoying their lives, kind of getting back to normal. I'm feeling kind of, I don't know, halfway in between. A quick thought from both of you on the influence of that. Does it help or does it hurt?
We know very well that social networks are reflected in social media activity, so we can replace regular social interactions to a certain degree by Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so forth.
Dr. Taylor?
The good thing about social media is, unlike the 1918 pandemic, we are not socially distant during this pandemic. We're physically distant. We are connecting to people. So that's the good side of social media. The downside of it, if people get all their news from social media, they're likely to get distorted, sensational and disturbing news. And we're finding that the really anxious people are spending way too much time on social media, for getting their news. And I would encourage those people to dial it down a little to get their news from respected sources.
Okay. Dr. Taylor, Professor Stock, interesting summer ahead. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much.
Well, there is relief in BC from days of punishing heat, but that is not to say that the extreme weather is done with. Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff explains the science behind the so-called heat dome and why they could become more common. Stay with us. We have some breaking news to tell you about. The mayor of Lytton, BC, which is a small town of a couple hundred people, roughly between Vancouver and Kamloops. The mayor there has said that a wildfire that has been burning near the town has now reached the town. And he says that Lytton has been evacuated and much of the town, in fact, has been destroyed. This is a pretty big story. We're just getting developments in as I speak right now. And as we get those updates, I will make sure I get those to you, so stand by for that. Meanwhile, people in Vancouver did see some relief from the extreme heat today. The heat wave is what meteorologists call a heat dome. That is, it has had a deadly impact across much of Western Canada. But we wanted to ask the question, what exactly is a heat dome and what combination of factors led to such unprecedented heat? Here's our meteorologist, Johanna Wagstaff, with some answers.
If you're feeling the unprecedented heat in Canada right now, you're probably wondering why. Why is this happening? It's a heat dome, and that's standard for summer, but there are 4 main ingredients to why this pressure cooker is breaking records. First, recent storms in the Western Pacific. That created a wave in this atmospheric conveyor belt called the jet stream. And look at this movement of water vapor from space. You can see once that wave got to BC, it parked itself there, ushering in moisture, giving BC a humidity it usually doesn't feel. The effect was also felt far higher, melting snow and ice on the tops of our highest mountains. So that's hot. It gets hotter with thermal lows. When it's hot enough, rapidly rising air causes low pressure on the ground. Winds move from high to low, so that hot air rushes towards the coast, racing down our mountains. If you've heard of Chinooks, it's the same principle. Third, cooking time. This weather pattern got locked in place, allowing hot air to keep mixing down, making every day hotter than the next. The final ingredient, time of the year. It's June, meaning a higher sun angle and more hours of the day, but also it's what's not here this time of the year. Smoke from forest fire season would actually have helped dissipate the rays from the sun. So what does all of this have to do with climate change? Well, remember the jet stream? Normally it looks like this, helping to keep weather patterns moving around the world. But now it's even wavier, and that leads to weather events lasting longer and moving slower. As climate change rapidly warms the Arctic, it's making that warp worse. The temperature difference between the north and the south is getting smaller, and it's that difference that fuels the speed of the jet stream. We know that climate change is also moving the baseline. As average temperatures go up, it means these extreme weather events we're feeling are going to be back, stronger and more often. Johanna Wagstaff, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, up next, 50 years turning the Montreal Canadiens into art.
Sit and I watch, and then I do these silly little sketches.
I wouldn't call them silly. How this hockey season has inspired. Next in our moment. Terry Mosher, known to most as the famous cartoonist Aislinn, has been illustrating cartoons for more than 5 decades. And one of his favorite subjects, the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, over the years, he has drawn hundreds of cartoons of the Habs, and the team's current run at the Stanley Cup has given him some serious inspiration. Tonight, he's our moment.
I've been drawing cartoons in Montreal longer than most people can remember. Naturally, being a Montrealer, I'm a Habs fan. My most famous one is one of the Habs sweater on the Montreal cross. If there's one thing in Montreal that unifies everybody, it's hockey. It's the lightning rod that pulls us all together. Used to be, it took a letter to the editor 3 days to arrive at the newspaper, and they wouldn't even show them to me. But now you get this instant reaction, and I love the interplay. Creative inspiration comes at you. I mean, when you look at a team of hockey players like we have right now, with bloody faces and goaltenders that won't let goals in and all that sort of thing, I sit and I watch, and things just happen in front of me, and then I do these silly little sketches, and they pay me money. How simple and wonderful is that?
Okay. Oh, Mr. Mosher, I think you're entitled to a little bit more credit than that, but I get to what you're saying. I followed his work for an awfully long time, all the way back to, my days where I was working as a journalist in Montreal. Always a pleasure to hear from him, and such outstanding artwork as well. That's The National for this June 30th. Have a great night.